Welcome back to Winners and Losers, ladies and gentlemen, on this beautiful Monday morning. But it's not beautiful for everybody. Look who's joined me, Zachary Jalab. And the reason it's not beautiful for everybody is we are talking about your beloved Chelsea. Roll the clip of him on Sunday Vibes, actually, before we start. Isn't it? When are you going to win again?
Hey, we'll have won one by the time this video goes out, that's for sure.
Oh, if you don't beat Southampton at home. So you didn't beat Southampton on the weekend, yet again. 2 wins in the last 14 games, 14th in the form table across that period. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear.
Yeah, I feel like you could see it in my face that I didn't quite believe what I was saying on Sunday Vibes. How things can change so quickly. We'll discuss it all, I'm pretty sure. But at the moment, that game in particular, before we get into, I guess, the wider Chelsea aspect, I was there for it. Atmosphere, not too pretty, if I'm being honest.
Booed off.
Booed off in the first half. Second half, I'm pretty sure they were, but I can't tell because I was surrounded by Southampton fans losing their nut. And yeah, it was a really poor game. It was a really poor game. It was probably the worst game I think I've seen under Potter, at least that first half anyway. Second half, things did get much better when Raheem Sterling entered the pitch personally. And it's just a bit of a silly free kick to give away.
You're fuming about this.
That's the thing that I'm more annoyed about. Like, is that I can take if a team has played well and you lose, and you're like, you know what? Okay, they turned up. They were really good.
Yeah.
And we can't put the ball in the back of the net, and they were just good. Southampton weren't. Southampton weren't great. And obviously they're going through a very rough patch at the moment. Like, it kind of felt, people were talking about, oh, well, there's no new manager bounce because there's no new manager. But you basically gave a penalty to someone when James Ward-Prowse on the pitch from 25 yards out. Like, I don't think if you could have
penalty, fair enough.
If you could have given James Ward-Prowse the ball and gone, where do you want to put this? He would have put it in that exact spot.
Yeah.
And I think, it was just a bit of like, especially when you look at the challenge, like the guys going out towards the left wing, like not facing the goal. There's no need to put the challenge in. And it was just obviously an over-eager Aspilicueta. But yeah, and then Chelsea went on to lose 1-0 to Southampton, and I got mud on my face.
Yes, so did Graham Potter on the day. And, there has been lots of talk since that game about his future. He is now the bookies' favourite to be sacked at just 4-11. It's the worst start for a Chelsea manager in 30 years in terms of the lowest win percentage anyway. I think it's like in mid-30s, 34%, something like that. Pretty horrendous. And a lot of people, will point to the fact underperforming expected goals by an awful lot. You look at that game against Southampton, the amount of chances they missed in the second half or had cleared off the line in the second half was quite incredible. And yes, they are underperforming expected goals. Expected goals has them about 22 goals in that time period. You scored 15. But you're also massively overperforming at the other end. Expected goals against, you should have conceded 20. You've only conceded 14. So Kepa is working some miracles in the net.
Kepa's doing very well this
Thiago
season.
Silva has been defending like a beast. Badiashile comes in and looks immediately very, very solid. What is going on with Graham Potter? And let's just ask the question, do you think he should be sacked?
No, I don't. I've said many times before today that I'm not a big believer in sackings, and I think especially in this case where you have a manager who has not only taken a huge step up coming to the size of Chelsea Football Club, a place which is normally quite used to managers having already managed the likes of PSG, Barcelona, Real Madrid, you name it. That's the kind of standard I think before, and so there's a lot to get used to on that front, and also I just think if you look at all the scenarios that Chelsea have had this season where they've not just added like 3 players to the squad in the summer and then 2 in January, I think it was like 18 different players have
18 new arrivals in 6 months.
Which is nuts, right? That's an insane amount of players to get used to, right? And I've already said throughout this season that I feel like it's a bit tough to put to sit there and be like, what is Graham Potter's style of play? It's tough to do that when you're in a Premier League season and you're playing a game every 3 days, 4 days. Chelsea are obviously now out of the domestic cup, so they do have a little more time. They obviously are still currently, at the time of recording, in the Champions League.
Hanging your hat on that Champions League now.
Yeah, that would be some turnaround, that's for sure. And so to get those players, to get a set squad that was already there to learn your style of football takes time. To then have 18 players and however many joined in January.
And a lot of injuries as well.
And a lot of injuries and not a lot of time to kind of play or teach your style of football. Because I remember when Potter joined, everyone was like, well, it's not too dissimilar from Thomas Tuchel. It actually is. Thomas Tuchel obviously played a 3-at-the-back system, and we know that Graham Potter can do that. He doesn't mind doing that. But he has moved to a 4-at-the-back system. And you mentioned it there. Like, the defence isn't really the biggest issue here. It's going forward. I sometimes, when you're watching Chelsea, there doesn't feel like there's a great idea of what they want to do, and maybe that's just because they haven't been able to be taught that. Obviously, Thomas Tuchel wasn't a manager, say, like Pep Guardiola, where he wants this set movement, and when this happens, this player makes the run down here. That was never what Thomas Tuchel was like. Thomas Tuchel created a situation where he wanted his players to be free to get into areas of the pitch and make their own decisions there. And so then if you're then trying to teach an attack certain ways that Potter wants them to do, it can take time. And so, yeah, I'm not a Potter out. I don't think I ever will be. I think there were people that wanted Thomas Tuchel out, and now they sit there and you see them on Twitter and say they wish he was back. I wouldn't take Twitter's words for it. I also just think, right, like, this isn't the Roman Abramovich era anymore.
Well, he would be gone if it was the Roman Abramovich era.
100%, especially after that loss to Southampton, who are bottom of the league. I just think more so with having given him a 5-year contract, having given him all these players, having continuously said that they believe in him, they back him, and they made such a, like, this wasn't just an opportunity where they came in and was like, okay, we're putting a new manager in. They got rid of Thomas Tuchel.
They brought in his backroom staff, recruitment staff.
They brought in so many. They've done so many big decisions here for him to then just go, all right, we're going to call it there. It's rough. I personally think.
So
I think I keep him, and I think he's got the rest of this season, no matter what happens, as long as Chelsea don't get relegated. And you give him that pre-season, and then next season is where really, things have to start coming up.
So I would probably agree with you. I don't think it's time to sack Graham Potter yet. This is very much a long-term project, but it has been pretty appalling. I mean, 8th in the league by expected points, 11th by expected goals, 15th by expected goals against. None of these metrics are good enough at any level. And this has been a problem in the forward areas anyway for quite some time for Chelsea now. Goal scoring remains an issue. They haven't had a player score 20 goals. It's Diego Costa in 2016. And, you think of the players they brought in that time, the likes of Romelu Lukaku, who didn't hit the ground running, the likes of Raheem Sterling, the attacking talent they've got at the club now. It's becoming a real issue, and it's continuously an issue under Graham Potter. It was continuously an issue, XG underperformance and goal scoring at Brighton as well. So there is part of my mind that's like, is this just something part of Graham Potter's teams where he can't quite work out how to cross the line? Because 8 games in the last 13, Chelsea have failed to score a goal. That is totally unacceptable for a team that's cost, I don't know, probably 800 million overall.
Yeah, 600 million.
600 million was just the new signings, wasn't it? So think of the players they already had at the club as well. I think it's the worst goal-scoring record of any managerial reign in Chelsea's history, or at least since 1990 anyway. And
it's bad.
It's a problem. He's also making maybe too many changes for me. I think he's made 61 changes to the team in 16 games.
A lot of injuries as well.
And that isn't helped. Yeah, obviously, when he first came in as well, he hasn't had N'Golo Kante at any stage. He's had both his fullbacks injured quite a lot. He's had midfield problems.
A World Cup in
But
between.
It still doesn't feel very settled. Like I still don't feel like there's a pattern of play or a settled
100%.
structure in that side, and that is an issue for me. And I also have a little bit of a problem with the way he comes across to the media. I know this is an eye-rolling thing. I would just like him to be a bit nastier and a bit more brutal. And I know it's not his personality.
I don't think he wins in any scenario here. I remember we've kind of spoke about this before off camera, and it was like, okay, I think the big one was after the handball against West Ham. Right?
But he would get Chelsea fans on the side, wouldn't he? He would get Chelsea fans on the side.
I don't know, because I just think
he would, mate.
If he comes out in the media and is suddenly like, that's an absolute disgrace,
Chelsea fans would agree with him.
But then, like,
it'd be us against the world type thing.
I don't think it would be, man. I honestly don't, because I just think then suddenly the narrative is not a manager that doesn't care. It's now a manager who, you see the pressures getting to him. It's such a big deal.
It's a valid point.
The media's on to him now. All this kind of stuff.
Another point I wanted to raise with you, because that is a very valid point. David Ornstein's Monday column saying that the Mason Mount contract talks have been shelved by the club. They've been put on the back burner until June, I think, when the Premier League and the Champions League runs are over. Of course, his contract's up in 2024, so that will only leave 12 months on his deal. It's time to, use the toilet or get off it at this stage, because you can't afford to lose a player of his quality for free the year after.
I think the big one is the decision will be made in the summer. They offered him obviously contracts last summer. They didn't go down well. I think they were rejected in the end. And so he'd have 12 months left, which isn't pretty. Like, I'm a guy who thinks give Mason Mount a lifetime contract. Personally, I think he's amazing.
Especially with Liverpool sticking around.
This is it. He's just having a down year, and that can happen. I mean, if you've had 3 or 4, his third, he had 4. This is his 4th season. He's had 3 seasons of doing pretty well. Having one off one isn't time to chuck him to the wolves. That's for sure.
It's weird though, because he does split opinion amongst Chelsea fans, Mason Mount, doesn't he? Online.
I mean, the thing, like,
a lot of stick.
Look, we've been doing this long enough now to know that, like, Chelsea fans and Twitter fans in general, to take their opinion on board is ludicrous at times, and people will just generally have hatred to some players because they are putting somebody else out of the squad and so on and so forth. And so, look, that's a situation that I hope is resolved in terms of him signing a new deal. I think he's a guy who, if he moved on, would be sitting here being in a year's time being like, what was the point of that? What are they doing? Especially when there are talks of someone like João Felix moving in for £100 million. Look, I'm not saying that Mason Mount and João Felix are the same player, but £100 million is a lot of money. Yeah, exactly. A lot of money to spend on someone that you've got somebody kind of doing that role and proven in that role over the past few years. I think the biggest thing with Chelsea right now is there's so much noise. There's so much noise, and I keep saying that I keep thinking they just need that one.
A win.
It was that Southampton game. I remember coming to that Southampton game being like, Chelsea just need a win here, like 2-0 win. Just
we got Spurs away at the weekend as your next game. That feels like a massive fixture.
That is a big game. That's the most disappointing thing about Southampton. The Southampton result is we came away after I think you kind of mentioned it, after the West Ham result, being like, okay, they drew, but they were unlucky. The handball, they played good football. Then the Dortmund result, where XG had Chelsea having scored 2 and they were unlucky in that front. And you were just like, okay, well, they've been unlucky here. Now let's see them play bottom of the league. And unfortunately, it didn't go that way. And Chelsea didn't perform anywhere near to the level. And that's the sum. You sit there and you go, well, Potter decided not to play Reece James, not to play Thiago Silva. He rested them obviously for future games. And sure, that makes sense, but also it's a big decision to make when you then lose 1-0 to that team.
2 of your best players.
100%, especially going forward with Reece James, what he adds to the side. I think, there's a lot of noise at the moment around Chelsea and Stamford Bridge, and I mean, there's been a lot of noise around Chelsea the past year and a half, to be honest, with everything that's happened. And so, and obviously the call to sack Tuchel, like, Potter from day one has always been facing an uphill battle from day one. It's not that he came in and Chelsea were doing poorly, and Chelsea were doing poorly, but he took over from someone, Thomas Tuchel, who so easily was loved by all the fans. And let's not forget, at the time as well, was also wanted out by a majority of those fans too, to be kicked out. I think in general, what is going wrong? A lot of things.
Everything. But stick with Potter.
Yeah. I think, look,
I agree,
you can't make a call and give someone a 5-year contract and do all of these things for him to then kick the bucket at the first.
Just imagine how much it would cost to sack him at this stage as well. It would be an eye-watering fee. So me and Zach are both saying that Chelsea should stick by Potter, but what do you guys at home think? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure you're following the YouTube channel as well, because this afternoon we're going to be talking about Manchester United and King Dr. Marcus Rashford. Sensational man. Anyway, thanks very much for watching, everybody. See you later. Goodbye.